Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on a really powerful enterprise tool, IBM's Operational Decision Manager, or as most people call it, ODM. So what is it? Well, think of it as the engine that helps massive companies manage the thousands of rules that run their entire business.
But first, let's kick things off with a question that I'm willing to bet almost every business has faced at some point. You've got a great idea, a simple change you want to make, so why on earth is it always so complicated to actually get it done?
Okay, let's dive into that. It all starts with this classic scene, right? This massive, invisible wall that always seems to exist between the business folks, the ones who know what needs to change, and the IT department, the folks who have to actually make it happen. And this slide just captures the problem perfectly. The business need is simple. It's urgent. Let's get this holiday promo out the door. But on the IT side, it's a whole different story. The reality is that the actual business logic, that little 10% off rule, is basically a prisoner, buried deep inside layers and layers of application code. And that makes any change slow, painful, and pretty darn expensive. So what's the answer here? We can't just keep shouting over that wall. We've got to build a bridge. We need a totally new way to connect these two essential worlds, and that is precisely what a system like ODM is designed to do. So here's the crucial point. ODM's main job is to pull those rules right out of the software code so they can be managed all on their own. And when you do that, poof, that wall we talked about, it just starts to crumble.
So how does this bridge actually work? I mean, how do you translate complex computer code into something a business user can not only understand, but actually manage themselves? Well, it's kind of like a universal translator, and it all comes down to a really clever layered approach.
It all starts at the very foundation with something called the XOM. That's the Execution Object Model. The easiest way to think about this is that it's the code's native language. It's the raw blueprint of the data, the pure tech stuff that the application runs on.
And then comes the next layer, which honestly is the secret sauce, the BOM, or Business Object Model. This is where the magic really happens. The BOM acts like a vocabulary that maps all those technical terms from the XOM into clear, business-friendly language that anyone can read.
So how do you build this translator? It's actually a pretty straightforward three-step process. First, IT imports the code's blueprint, the XOM. Second, they create that business vocabulary, the BOM. And finally, they map the two layers together. And just like that, you've created a shared dictionary for everyone to use.
Okay, so this final piece of the translation is called verbalization, and it is so cool. It's the magic step that takes a really gnarly, code-like statement that the system needs to understand under the hood,
and it automatically turns it into a simple, structured English phrase just like this one. Now, you got to get this. That is not a comment somebody left in the code. That sentence is the code. It's an actual executable business rule, but it's perfectly clear to pretty much anyone.
Okay, so you might be thinking, a shared language, that's great. But how do the teams actually work together now? Well, the entire workflow becomes truly collaborative. It's pretty cool, actually. It's like each team gets its own custom-built headquarters. IT gets its workshop, a tool called Rule Designer, where they build that technical foundation. And the business team, they get their own HQ, a web portal called Decision Center, where they can write, test, and manage all the rules in that simple, plain language.
All right, let's see this thing in action. Let's make it real. Here's a request coming into a sample mini loan service. You can see all the info we're sending over, the loan amount, and of course some details about our borrower, John Doe. His credit score, his income. This is the data the rules are going to chew on.
And boom, just like that, we get a response back from the server. Now, the loan's not approved, that part's clear, but look at the best part. It's explainable. It tells us exactly why, in plain English, the debt-to-income ratio is too high. That right there is the magic of a well-managed rule system.
Now, a powerful bridge like this needs a really solid foundation. Building it right means you got to do some careful, upfront planning. So let's switch gears for a second and talk about the practical side of things, the must-dos for making sure your ODM deployment is stable and successful.
Seriously, the very first part of pouring that foundation is sizing your environment correctly. Before you even think about installing anything, you have to get this right. Look, if you mess this part up, you are just setting yourself up for a world of performance headaches later on.
And the takeaway here is really simple. Just check out that jump from a small to a medium deployment. We're talking a nearly 4 times increase in CPU requirements. The lesson here is pretty obvious, right? Don't skimp on the hardware. Plan ahead.
And if the hardware is the steel rebar, then the database is the absolute bedrock of your foundation. And let me be crystal clear about this. A properly configured database isn't just a good idea, it's the mandatory first step. You literally cannot move forward without creating these 4 distinct schemas for things like storing rules and tracing decisions.
So, after all that planning, all that setup, what's the ultimate payoff? Why go through all this trouble to build this bridge between business and IT in the first place?
It really comes down to 3 huge benefits. First, agility. We're talking about launching that holiday promo in hours, not weeks. Second, you get absolute clarity. Your business logic isn't some black box anymore. It's a transparent asset. And finally, and this is a big one, you get governance, a full audit trail of who changed what, when, and why. Look, the technology to translate code into the language of business is here today. This isn't some far-off future tech. It's here, right now. Which really just leaves one final question for you to think about. What critical business rules in your own organization are still trapped in code, just waiting to be set free?